So the other day I was just sitting here thinking about what video I should make next when all of a sudden my local fish wizard busts through the door.
Spiritual fish lad, it is I.
Weren't you that guy from the pumpkin carving video?
Yes, that's me. It's important to have consistency in your YouTube videos.
No one cares about consistency. It's a channel with less than 300 subscribers.
Okay, fair, but you should at least try to have some sort of idea going on with your channel instead of just uploading whatever random content you want.
Okay, you make a point, but I just like uploading whatever I want.
Well, I suppose what you could do is simply record a series of videos of you just screwing around in your room doing whatever the hell you want, but give it a title like, What's Up in the Fish Room, so that it seems like there's some consistency.
So in today's riveting episode, let's talk about this. Jarrariums or ecospheres. Thanks for asking, MS Paint version of me. A jarrarium or an ecosphere is basically just some sort of little self-sustaining ecosystem within a jar. Now, as it's defined by the two biggest ecosphere channels, in my opinion, Life in Jars and maybe we don't talk about that one. An ecosphere is something that self-sustains itself. It's something that runs by itself and it's based on a bunch of plants and animals you've collected from a local body of water. Now, personally, I like to fiddle with my system, so excuse me for playing God, but technically this is not an ecosphere because, shocker, I open it sometimes to add stuff to keep it interesting because I don't want to have 400 of these on my shelf. Anyways, today we're going to go through the process of how I added some stuff to this one and also made a new one. This entire idea was kind of just something that happened randomly. I just basically walked down to a few rivers and ditches and ponds and was like, hey, there's plants. Why don't I make another jarrarium? Sounds fun. So seeing this local pond area and collecting all these plants, I thought, you know what? Let's take that old jarrarium and revamp it. Sure, it's got plenty of plants growing in it and the snails are doing great, but there isn't much biodiversity. There's a few scuds I see every once in a while, but there isn't much to it. It's not really something I want to look at all the time and think, oh, what am I going to see today? It's pretty predictable. So the first thing I did is I drained some of the water so that I could add some of this new pond water as well as some plants. I then started adding a bunch of water that I had collected from the ecosystem there, and I just added it to the jar. See, in the dish there were tons of different critters, particularly scuds in this clip here. And scuds are like little shrimp guys. They're really cool. I really like them. Now here's the new bottle I found, and I thought this will be great. So I got this sand that I just had lying around, and I sort of, set up a little sand bed. I then started adding some plants to the jar itself, and then started adding some water from the little collection thing, which both added a ton of microfauna as well as some plants, such as duckweed. Now, I then just decided, screw it, I'm going to shove everything in here, which was a terrible idea, because most of the plants melted back due to how dense it was, and this created an ammonia spike, which essentially unintentionally hard-cycled this thing. This isn't really an issue, but it's important to acknowledge, as if you're going to do this yourself, you are likely to get massive amounts of die-off at the start. Now this was about a day later. I drained half of it because it started to stink because the plants were rotting. And this one I should have just taken out a bunch of stuff, but I was too afraid I was going to destroy some of the diverse life in here. You can just see the number of copepods, as well as this amphipod or scud just scurrying around here. There was definitely a lot of life in here at the start. There's a little wormy thing, some sort of bug larva, I think. And a snail. There's a snail again. Snails are easily the most common thing you're going to find if you ever make one of these, and they're also the hardiest, by far. Now, in the other ecosphere, you can see some various critters going around here, my ram's horn, and you can see the plant was initially growing out of the top quite nicely, but unfortunately it actually died back, which was really unfortunate because you can just see how much it was rooting. It was doing quite well. Alright, so this is about 4 weeks later. Let's see how everything's doing. The first thing to note is that in the old jarrarium, there are a ton of these flatworms or planarian, and in addition to these, there is hydra on the glass. You can see a thin layer of algae on the glass, but there's also these little hydra. And hydra are actually really cool. Think of them as like tiny freshwater like corals. And yeah, they will basically just eat small critters, which is great because it means they'll help to thin out the population here. I don't know what this thing is, but it's alive, and I thought it was kind of cool. It seems to be some sort of bug, but Lord if I know, I'm no expert on this kind of thing. Now here is my favorite thing in this Jarrarium, and that is the amphipods. There are tons of these little scuds everywhere, and I didn't even realize how many there were. Originally there was only like 2, but I don't know. I just love seeing these guys. Like, just look at them in harmony with the snail. It's so cool. You can see the snail eggs. Snails are just laying eggs wherever, even out of the water. There's a springtail. Here's a little family of amphipods. You can see 2 big ones as well as 2 absolutely tiny ones there. Like, look how small that little guy is. He is tiny. And it's just really cool to see these guys sort of foraging and developing their own little world in here. I really like this small aspect of the hobby because it's not like fish keeping where you kind of know generally what's going on in your tanks. In this sort of ecosystem, it's always fun to see how things grow and develop without you really influencing them too much. That's freshwater clam. I just found that in a random Tupperware and thought, let's put him in there. I don't know if I'll ever see him again. Now, my plans for the bottle jar after, its inception was to basically just straight up do a massive water change and destroy it because, frankly, everything was dead. All the plants had melted back. It was a desolate wasteland. But I thought, I'll take a look in there because I know there's snails, and, well, sure enough, there's a snail, but there's also some little wormy guys and some other microfauna swimming around. And there was a big clutch of snail eggs, and 1 baby snail, 2 baby snail, 3 baby snail, a lot of baby snails. And then I saw this little cyclops, and I was like, okay, there's actually an ecosystem in here. Against all the odds, against everything I could have thought, there's still stuff in here. There's even this giant planarian flatworm disgusting thing I found. And I'm like, I can't just destroy this thing. Like, look how this persevered. This went from a lush jungle to a desolate wasteland, and there's still stuff alive. And I thought, it's unfair to just leave these creatures, like, suck up their entire land and make something new. And you know what? It didn't even smell that bad, so I thought, let's just add a few things to make this a bit more aesthetically pleasing, and then, we can just keep it and let it grow and develop. So I didn't have too much to do with this thing, but essentially all I did is I thought this needs some sort of hardscape. So I grabbed these little twigs and I put them in. I just thought, these will just add a bit of depth to the environment. They'll give a place for snails to crawl on. They'll perhaps like make a ground for algae to grow. I just thought they looked pretty nice. Now the next thing I did is I added some plants. No ecosystem like this is going to be successful without plants. So I grabbed one that I had collected from a pond. It was growing in a riparian setting, meaning it was growing out of the water, but there were leaves growing underwater, so I thought, let's try it, see how it grows aquatically. I also stuck in a piece of milfoil, and finally, chucked in some Anacharis. All in all, it's going to be interesting to see how this environment develops over the next little while, and hopefully I can give you guys an update soon. But yeah, that's my little adventure with my 2 Jarrariums, and I hope you enjoyed.